Here are 6 fantasy books that I think your high school students are going to love that are not in your typical suggestion box. So let me share them. First up, we have The Spellshop, which is a sweet little book about... First is The Spellshop. And this was a very sweet, just a little cozy fantasy about a librarian who is charged with keeping these rare and special nature-focused spells preserved in the library. But in this world, magic has now been kind of hoarded by the rich and powerful. So there's a huge imbalance, and everybody who is not rich and powerful is suffering because of it. So there is a coup that takes place, and she and her best friend, who is a sentient spider plant, they escape with a few crates of books, and they run away to an island that needs their help, but they find just as much help in return. Next is The Nature of Witches. This one was really fun. I enjoyed this a lot. It's this world, well, it's like our world, except there are lots of people who have magic, but they're all like based on the season in which they are born. So you are a spring witch or a winter witch or a summer witch or whatever it is. But our main character is very special because she can harness all of the different seasons. So she's powerful all year long. But what's really interesting about this is that it brings into play how these witches help with climate change when the humans are not doing their part. So it's a really interesting book, and I think your students would love it. Next up, we have The Children of Blood and Bone, which again is another totalitarian regime situation in which all of the magic is being hoarded. People who have magic have been hunted down, but our main character here has magic and is in hiding. And I just loved a lot of what happened in this story and how the magic came alive, but I also really loved the African connection in connection to, especially with her hair. And I loved how the more she became in touch with herself and her magical abilities, the curlier her hair gets because it's not being forced to be straightened. So there's just a lot of really great symbolism in there too, but a lot of really fun action and found family, all that good stuff. Next is Throne of Glass. This is a really fun book that starts an incredible series with a female assassin who is being liberated from a prison by the prince and his like captain of the guards for a weird like competition is what I would say. This one is one of those where there really isn't any magic per se, but there's a lot of mystery going on, and you get a little bit of magic towards the end, and then of course as the series expands and goes on from book to book, more and more magic comes into play. Next up is Fable. I absolutely adore this. This is one of those where it's kind of like low fantasy in the fact that there is no magic at all in any of these books, but it's a really cool world where jewels are not mined in caves or, you know, in the earth and things like that. They're actually mined underneath the sea. So there's a lot of greed and exploration trying to get different gems and things of that nature. But there's a lot of like pirate vibes and stuff like that. And our main character, Fable, she's very spunky and like really badass. And so a lot of people are just gonna end up falling in love with her. And last is Sky in the Deep. This one, my students go feral for every single year. It's, again, low fantasy, as in there's no magic or anything like that, but this is kind of like a fantastical place in a way where it's almost like historical fiction because it's Viking-esque, but they are made up Viking gods. They aren't the typical ones that you know in Norse mythology. But it's really interesting because the chapter, you know, the book opens up in the middle of a Viking battle. And our main character here is a badass warrior. And the students really get into her being so active and brutal from the very beginning of the book. So it's very fast paced. They get into it right away. There's a mystery because she discovers her brother, who has supposedly been dead for a few years, she finds him on the battlefield fighting for the other side. So it's just a really interesting book, and my students always love this one. So if you were needing some recommendations, I hope this one helped.